Alright guys, so it's the next day and we're back on the TR6 to fix the little bugs and make sure that the engine runs well, and then we're gonna go ahead and check the transmission and everything else. So what happened was the starter started slowing down. Wow, such a hard sentence. The starter started slowing down, and finally at this point it's all dead. Right. It doesn't even turn. See, only the solenoid is clicking, but the starter doesn't even want to turn. So there are two options. One option is that the starter is seized. The engine is not seized. I'm able to turn it by hand. So the engine is turning over, no problem. So either the starter seized, maybe bushings or I don't know what, or the solenoid, the points on the solenoid, the contact points. So we're gonna have to take it out and we'll see. But we can measure now actually, and we'll figure that out. And the other thing is, I was wondering why the engine was stalling all of a sudden, because it happened a couple of times. One of them I think I filmed, the other times I didn't even film, but the engine was running, and first of all I couldn't adjust the idle. It was idling very high, as if there was a vacuum leak somewhere, but I couldn't figure it out. And of course I had a vacuum leak. And thanks to you guys, a couple of you mentioned to me, and I figured it out. I can't open the breathers. So there was huge vacuum leak from here and here. So now I blank them off. Okay. And we'll see once we are able to start it, if this is going to improve the situation here. So yeah, let's get started with the starter. Usually that's what the logic says, right? Start with the starter, finish with the finisher. Alright, so to test the starter, I have my multimeter on the battery, and now when we turn the ignition on, actually when we try to crank it, if the starter is seized, we're gonna see a huge voltage drop on the multimeter. But there's nothing actually, so this means that there's no circuit through the starter. Maybe we don't have good connections somewhere. So let's check all the connections. I'll check the ground here, because where it connects to the engine, that's my concern. Alright, to make sure that all my connections are good and the problem is not in not having ground or somewhere in the cables, I just hooked the jumper cables to the battery, positive and negative, hooked up here the negative to the body of the starter, and now I'm gonna test to see if it is gonna run if I just bypass everything and go directly on the starter. I'm not even using the solenoid, I'm going directly on the starter. And nothing is happening. It sparks, but nothing is happening. We have a bad starter, so we have to take it out. Chef Tash mentioned yesterday, same thing happened to my Spitfire before. As soon as I started it, the starter went bad. Okay, so let me take it out. Alright, the starter is out, and we're gonna test it now. Now we have this connected to the battery, so we're gonna jump it, without the solenoid. We're gonna go directly here, what we did on the car. You see, nothing happens. Sparks, but nothing happens inside. So I'm guessing maybe brushes. I don't know. Should we take it apart here and see, or just change it? Is it worth dealing with the starter? You know what? I'm gonna leave this one alone for now, and I'll show you something else. This is a starter I took out from the 74 TR6, but I don't know the condition of it. Yesterday I just painted it because I didn't have more time yesterday, so I just cleaned it up from the rust and painted it, and today we can test it. But something happened overnight. I hung it on this wire just to paint it yesterday and left it hanging, and when I came this morning it was on the floor and the solenoid is broken. So I don't know what happened, but we will see now. We're gonna test it without the solenoid. If the starter is good, we're gonna take this solenoid, install it here, and we're gonna go from there. Alright, let's test it now. Okay. I don't know. I'm gonna assemble it. I'm gonna put this solenoid on it, and we'll see. We'll go from there. Somehow I have to hold this up while I'm hooking it to this hook. I don't know if you see it there. Okay. It's in. Alright, so the starter, the new old starter is installed. Connecting the battery. And let's see how she's gonna crank now. If she's gonna crank. Okay, now we know that the engine is running, at least running good enough for us to test the transmission and the overdrive. But for the transmission, I have this issue here. I need to see what's wrong with it. Why is it spinning like that? So for this, I'm gonna have to take it apart. I recently did that for my Spitfire, so it shouldn't be that hard, I hope. Oh, I think I found the issue. Okay, there are splines here, and these splines, where do they go? Yeah, obviously we'll have to take apart everything here. Okay, so here we have a one hole, and in this hole we should have a spring and a plunger. I found the plunger, but I couldn't find the spring. And I dug into my overdrive parts too, and I couldn't find the spring for here too. But we're gonna take a note, and we're gonna order the spring, but for now we're gonna assemble it without the spring. The spring just helps for smoother shifting, I guess. But anyway, so this hole needs to point towards the back. So when we assemble this, we have to assemble it this way. So I'm just gonna put it loosely here. I'm gonna do that. Okay. So here's the plunger, and I'm gonna put it inside, even though we don't have a spring, but I don't know what is gonna help, but at least it's gonna be where it's supposed to be. Okay. And now this will have to match this slot on the side. You see, we have slot here and slot here, and that's what's gonna keep it from turning. And that's why it was spinning on me, because these were very loose, obviously. But they go through these holes here, and I have 3 holes. I have 1, 2, 3 holes here, so I have to be careful for the position, right? So first we have the spring, right? And then we have this, and then we have this, with 1, 2 holes and the third at the back. Okay. One of these. Yeah. And that much slots. Okay, there. Okay, I'll go home. That's good. Okay. Nice. Okay, so now I have local ones there. And these ones here. So we just need to remember, come back and install that spring. Nice. Looks like our clutch doesn't disengage properly, and yeah, let me show you something under the car. Okay, you see here how much travel it has before it hits. So when this rod starts coming out, it has all this travel before it starts pushing the clutch, actually. And that I was expecting that. And these 3 holes here are exactly for that. I was telling you in one of my old videos. I remember on John's car the slave cylinder was installed on the wrong side of the plate here, but this one is on the right side of the plate and still doesn't reach. That's why I put it on the highest one, because this way, when it is here on this one, the rod needs the least travel before it starts hitting the clutch, but still doesn't travel enough. So what I'm thinking is to loosen those bolts and put some shims behind the slave cylinder to go more that way, and that's how it is gonna work. See, there's a little bit of play. You need a little bit of play here, otherwise your clutch is gonna get worn too fast. But you need just so much. Okay, so of course that's temporarily here. If this works well, I'm gonna cut the rod and I'm gonna extend it by this much, which is about 3/8 probably. Or I can even go 1/2 inch and go with this on low. Okay, so many little bugs before we can even test drive it in the air. Okay, now the pedal feels a little bit harder. Okay, cool. Have clutch. Right. So many things before we can even test drive it in the air. I went and found the rod from the 74, and it is adjustable. And compared to this one, it is much longer. And you know what? Also, look at that. Somebody has already extended it by ½ inch. So look at the difference between the two rods now. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take the shims that I put there out, and I'm gonna put this in, and then if it's too long, because it's been extended, so maybe it's gonna be too long now, but if it's too long, I can always adjust it from here, right? So I removed the shims, I put the longer rod, and I shortened it a little bit, maybe by ½ inch, so it's exactly as it would be without the extension. I don't know why they extended it. So let's... So now it goes in all the gears, but the only thing is I don't know the overdrive for some reason. Oh, okay. I couldn't figure out the overdrive for some reason. Let me try it now. Makes a difference. Yeah, it makes some difference. Yeah. This Rusty Beauty joined the horde of the Rusty Beauty. Actually, she was the second one, or the third one, or whatever. So she joined the horde at the end of 2015. Ever since, she's been sitting and waiting for this historical moment. She had her engine started a couple of times, and that was the closest she's ever been to being alive. But today, she's gonna move under her own power for the first time. That's 2.5 years after she came here. She came in pieces, and finally she is assembled just enough so she can move under her own power. So without further ado, let's get to this moment. Oh, and by the way, I will never drive first backwards. I always drive, even if it's a quarter of an inch forward, but I always drive forward first, so don't be surprised. Ooh, it feels like a car. Okay, the historical moment, we wait one more moment. Like I said, it's about time to install the handles on this door, but this is not the problem. Somebody installed those angles here, probably to pull the steering wheel, and now I just hurt my precious skin. So I'm gonna take them out before I go any further. Alright, not bad as a first drive, but we have to fix these links here, all these links, because it's a mess and it doesn't let me drive properly. Can't control the RPMs from underneath, and it is idling very high, and this is not good. But as a first drive, it wasn't bad, huh? We drove her. Alright, I installed this very special spring here that pulls the throttle back and installed the air cleaners, and I can bring the RPMs lower than that. I think I have a vacuum leak somewhere around probably around the throttle shaft, but we will see. But at least it comes back now. Alright, I don't know what happened, guys. Honestly, I have no idea what exploded and where all this oil started coming from. Oh, I only know that everything is a mess, and yeah, I have no idea what happened. This side of the engine is so wet, oil, and can't even figure out where the oil is coming from. Anyways, we'll have to see what we're gonna do. Alright, I figured it out, and it's not that bad actually. Do you see it? Over there. Over there. Yep. The line for the oil pressure came loose. That's so stupid. How does it even stay there? It looks like it's just pressure fit. Oh my god. No. Well, at least it's not something with the engine. I thought the engine was busted, but it's just this line. It made a mess though, so I have to clean now. Alright guys, so it's not that bad. I was expecting worse, but it's just this line, so we're gonna fix that and we're gonna keep going forward. I was really scared about this. When I saw all this oil coming out, I was like, okay, that's it, we're done. But it wasn't that bad actually, so I'm happy. Even though we had some ups and downs today, I'm happy that finally I drove this TR6, and she's a beautiful car actually. I love it. I love how she drives. I love how the engine performs, and yeah, so we achieved our goal to drive it and to see if the transmission and everything works fine, and it does, which is good, but I still want to drive it on the road, like go somewhere and then go with 40-50 miles per hour and make sure that everything drives is well. So our next goal is going to be to put everything together electrically, to have all the lights, signals and everything, and we're going to put the hood on, we're going to put the windshield on, we're going to put everything that is needed for the road, and then we're going to take our dealer's plate and we're going to put her on the road and we're going to drive her for at least 2-3 kilometers to make sure that everything is fine. Because I still haven't tested the overdrive. I couldn't, of course I can't test it here in the backyard, but I think it works fine. The transmission works fine. I managed to go into third gear, first, second, third, and I didn't put fourth, but yeah, anyway, so it is good. I'm happy. So thanks for watching, guys. That was a big milestone today. So thanks for watching and thanks for being with me on the journey, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.